board, and it's the 14th of October 2025, and it's just gone 10 a.m. This board meeting is not subject to the 1972 Local Government Act, and therefore can continue to take place virtually. It is only the board members that are taking part in any decisions at the meeting. Others in attendance are there to provide advice to the board. The agenda and the papers have been published on the council's website in advance of the meeting. The council will be making a recording of this meeting, and this will be published on the council's YouTube channel and website in due course. I'd like to highlight the following, that the meeting will be run virtually on Microsoft Teams. Other elected members and officials may remotely join the meeting to speak on specific agenda items or observe. Other members of the public and partners can observe the meeting remotely via Microsoft Teams. There is also some provision for any members of the public to speak at the meeting via the public questions or statements that have been submitted in advance. I'd just like to highlight some bit of housekeeping. So please use the meeting chat function only for the purposes of the meeting, primarily to indicate to the chair that you may wish to speak. Please only speak at my invitation after raising your hand virtually. Please say your name before speaking, and please note the importance of turning off microphones and cameras when not speaking, with the exception of myself. So this moves us on to apologies for absence. Have we received any apologies, Claire?
Thank you, Chair. Just one apology from Josh Strickland of Hatch Green Coaches.
Okay, we've got a full house then. That's great news. Okay, on to item 3, which is the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 24th of June 2025. So I'm going to request approval of the meetings as an accurate record of the previous meeting, unless anybody has any alterations that they would wish to be noted. I'm not seeing any hands, so I'm going to take it that they are approved by the board. Fantastic. So, zooming through this onto public question time. So, public representations will be of a maximum of 2 questions and have been submitted in writing no later than 3 clear working days before this meeting. Members of the public have 3 minutes to introduce and present their representations, and any responses will be to the written questions rather than anything else that's brought at a on top of what's been asked. So I'll go straight to our first question, and that's from Andy Strong. Are you on the? There he is.
Yeah.
Would you like to read your question, or?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I'm Andy Strong, resident and bus user. So my point is, the Enhanced Partnership Scheme contains commitments on the part of Somerset Council to provide and maintain specific infrastructure and various intangible measures, and they're balanced by legally binding commitments by local bus operators to meet certain operational standards. One of those operator commitments is, and it's number 4.7, bus operators providing services within the Taunton Town Fair Zone will use tap-on, tap-off technology from Q3 of financial year 2023/24, and will work with Somerset Council to develop a rollout programme for vehicles used on routes within the Taunton zone. This will also include fare capping from the same period using existing on-bus ticket machine technology. Well, that's the commitment. Now, it's almost 2 years now since that deadline passed, but to the best of my knowledge, this important commitment has only been met by 2 of the operators running bus services in Taunton. Now, this apparent failure of some operators to meet their commitment is very disappointing and undermines the credibility of the enhanced partnership scheme. So will the council confirm the current target date for full rollout of tap on, tap off in Taunton, and advise what action is being taken to get compliance from those operators who have failed to meet their commitment so far? Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. I'll respond. So there are cost implications associated with the installation of tap-on, tap-off technology and the ticketer software required to support this. Those operators that have currently installed this technology are also offering fare capping on their services. We are waiting for the government announcement on the future of BSIP funding, and we'll need to review the position with tap-on, tap-off technology to agree a revised target date. Thank you. We'll move on to the second question, which is from Councillor Michael Leary, or Mick Leary, from Bridgwater Town Council. Are you on? Do we know whether he's on, Claire?
Thank you, Chair. I don't see him at the moment. Would it be okay if you read the question aloud?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mick has asked, I understand that there is a concern regarding the B1 Sunday service in Bridgwater. First, there has been a welcome growth in passenger numbers on the B1 Sunday service, but they report it has mainly come from concessionary fare passengers, so the benefit of the increased passenger numbers goes to the council and not to First. First say they need to see more fare paying passengers on the B1 Sunday service. Could the council set up a meeting with First to make sure that the present Sunday service stays in place until the end of March 2026, and also consider renegotiating the Sunday bus service with First rather than allowing the changes in the timetable? And my response to that is the B1 is funded through the Bus Service Improvement Plan grant, and the contract is in place until March 2026. And we will review passenger numbers ahead of any future BSIP announcements. So thank you, Mick, for that question. And that is actually all the questions we've got for today's meeting. So I will move on to section 5, which is multi-operator ticket update. So I'm going to invite Natasha to give us an update on that.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Natasha Bates, Service Manager for Transport Planning within Somerset Council. So just a very quick update on the multi-operator ticket. So we held a face-to-face meeting with operators last month to discuss a number of agenda items, including the multi-operator ticket. And I think it's fair to say we had some really good detailed discussion around how we might be able to take forward a paper-based ticket without the back office system, because obviously we're waiting for the government's Project Coral. We do have some potential ideas and some issues to consider. So that includes the level of risk from lost revenue for operators and also cross-border travel. So how this might be managed within the scheme. So there's a few things for us to kind of tease out as well. I think from those discussions, it became apparent that we weren't going to be able to resolve all of the issues and agree the way forward within the time we had available at that meeting. So we've taken away an action for everyone to consider further, and we will continue the discussions with operators to try and find that agreeable way forward. And just to say, I think at the moment, I can't give timescales on this, as we have a lot of projects in the pipeline at the moment, and we're still recruiting and building capacity within the team. But as soon as we're able to do so, we will try and move this forward and provide more of an update for everybody. So it was just a quick update now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Natasha. I am going to throw this open to questions if you're happy to answer them. So hands up if you have any questions on Natasha's update. And David,
so I'm concerned about
just to say that you're I forget whether you are a member of this board, but I will let you speak.
I think I'm a member, actually, yeah.
Okay.
So the point I want to make is, Natasha, is obviously the cross-boundary issues, really, because people in the Mendip region and in Sedgemoor go into Western and Bristol and Bath for the IUH or the university or hospitals in Bristol, banking, courts, etc., which is the way the north of the county look, Richard. So my question is about making sure the zones and tickets are integrated in the north, really, because that is the way where everything from Wales, Grafton Street looks north towards the Bristol Bath conurbation. That's where their services are.
Thank you, David. I think we will be looking at every area, but I'll just go back to Natasha. It's quite important that it is seen around. I would imagine, including the Mendip and the cross-border area there, and that is, as you say, it is a vital part of our connectivity. But I'll just defer to Natasha.
Yeah, and just to say, yes, we are taking that into consideration. It's been part of the discussions how we deal with those journeys that go across the border, not just into kind of the Wecker area, but also Devon, Dorset, and operators were kind of raising how we would manage this. So it is all part of the wider consideration. I can't give you the answers on how we're going to manage it just yet, but it is part of that consideration.
Okay. Thank you. Right, I'm just noticing that I've got some things in the chat that I'm just going to check out from. Andy's pointing out that cross-border travel is not an issue if operators set boundaries. Very easy, which is a fair point. Okay, well, as there's no more questions on our multi-operator ticket update, I think we'll move on to section 6, which I think a lot of you will be waiting for, which is the timetable changes for 2026 and beyond. And I'm going to ask John Perrett to present timetables and change dates.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. My name is John Perrett. I'm Service Manager of Transporting Somerset. So the papers came out as part of the papers that were issued for this meeting. So I'll talk you through the background and talk you through the change dates for 2026 and beyond, and then come to the recommendation last. So just the background, at the Bus Advisory Board meeting in July 2023, members agreed to 2 main timetable change dates per year, with flexibility maintained for unforeseen emergency operational issues and seasonal changes, where it's not possible to confirm those changes at the 2 main agreed dates. The date changes were agreed for Easter and at the beginning of September each year, with exact dates to be agreed at each October board meeting. However, it has since been proposed that the dates for the next 5 years should be set in advance to align with the West of England Combined Authority. Following discussion with operators in advance of this board meeting, it was agreed that operators will provide the proposed timetables for publication with the Bus Advisory Board agenda, which ensures transparency, improves consultation, and allows consideration of the proposals ahead of the board meeting taking place, where operators will present their proposals in more detail. So first of all, on the timetable change dates that we've set in advance, I can confirm those dates are as follows. For 2026, the April change date will be the 5th of April, and the change date at the beginning of the autumn will be the 30th of August. In 2027, it will be the 4th of April and the 29th of August. In 2028, it will be the 2nd of April and the 3rd of September. In 2029, the 1st of April and the 2nd of September. And in 2030, the 7th of April and 1st of September. And those dates have all been agreed with colleagues from WECA. So turning to the timescales for 2026, which we confirm at this meeting, I can confirm that on the 12th of January 2026, proposed timetables will be provided to Somerset Council. That will allow time for us to check the details and place into the board report a template. On the 19th of January, the Bus Advisory Board agenda will be published. And that'll be published 5 clear days ahead in advance of the meeting. The consultation period for the changes to bus services will commence on the 25th of January, running through to the 21st of February. That's the 28-day consultation period for Bus Advisory Board and key stakeholders. On the 27th of January 2026 will be the Q1 Bus Advisory Board meeting, where operators will introduce those changes to the board for consideration and discussion. And on the 22nd of February until the 4th of April, that will be the registration period, the 42-day period before services come into effect. And they will, and the timetables for those will be published on operators' websites on the 9th of March. So timetables will be published on websites in advance of changes taking place, with those changes coming in on Sunday, the 5th of April, for the first change date in 2026. That's followed shortly afterwards on the 28th of April by the Q2 Bus Advisory Board for 2026. And then on the 8th of June, once again, proposed timetables will be submitted to Somerset Council to allow time for us to check the details and to place into the agenda for the Bus Advisory Board. The Bus Advisory Board agenda will be published on the 15th of June, allowing 5 clear working days in advance of the meeting. The consultation period will commence on the 21st of June and end on the 18th of July. That's the 28-day consultation period again for Bus Advisory Board and key stakeholders. On the 23rd of June 2026, the Q3 Bus Advisory Board meeting will take place, where operators will introduce those changes to the board for consideration and discussion. On the 19th of July to the 29th of August, the registration period, 42-day registration period, will commence, and no further changes can be made at this point. On the 3rd of August, those timetables changes will be published on operator websites in advance of the changes taking place, with those changes taking effect on Sunday, the 30th of August 2026, which is the second change date for 2026. And finally, the final Q4 Bus Advisory Board meeting will take place next year on the 13th of October. So the recommendations being put forward at this meeting is that operators subject to the EP will agree to the timetable change dates for the next 5 years up to 2030, the specific dates for the associated consultation and registration periods in 2026 are set out in the table in the meeting notes that have gone out, to provide proposed timetables in accordance with the timetable set out in Table 2 to ensure that these can be published with the agenda to the relevant Bus Advisory Board meeting, and continue to use the pro forma for presenting proposed timetable changes at the Bus Advisory Board meeting to ensure clarity on any changes being suggested. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. That's quite a comprehensive amount to digest, and I know that David is ready to ask a question, but before he does, as this was very much something brought by the Bus Partnership, I'd quite like Peter Travis to speak first on on this. So Peter, I'm sort of probably catching you a bit cold, but are you happy to respond to what John's brought us?
Yes, Chair, thank you. I mean, firstly, we very much welcome the fact that we've got change dates agreed and that they are in harmony with those also being developed by WECO, because it makes an awful lot of sense for both local transport authorities to change on the same date. Makes it very much easier for bus users. 2 points have been raised by Andy Strong, who did actually raise this issue, and we very much appreciate that Somerset Council has responded to that initiative. Are we going to have feedback from officers and operators on the Somerset Bus Partnership proposal for proper consultation, more extensive consultation, as was mentioned at the last Bus Advisory Board? And also, will the council commit to having new timetables available on Travelline at the same time that operators publish them on their websites? Two very specific issues. I'm not sure if John is in a position to comment on that.
I'll hand you back to John to see whether he can comment.
I can certainly. I'll take the second one first. So in terms of Travelline, I think there is a certain time period where timetables can be published on Travelline in advance of changes. But certainly we'll take that away and check what that is. And as long as that meets that sort of deadline in terms of dates when they can be published in advance, and I see no reason why that can't be done. So publishing on Travelline is fine. In terms of the first question, obviously the discussions that we had with operators were around a proposal put by the Bus Partnership, and this was in the discussions we had with operators. Of course, these were commercial operators, because a lot of the timetables are determined by ourselves where we fund them. This was felt to be a reasonable compromise in terms of what could be done in advance of changes to try and get the information out earlier and to publish it earlier. So in a way, if you like, this is the response to that request, and this is what operators felt they were able to do at this point in time. So I think what we want to see is how this progresses next year and how well this works in terms of giving advance notice and providing that information as soon as possible. And perhaps it's something we could relook at after we've gone through this process next year to see how well and how much better this has worked in giving that advance notice and the detail earlier than we have in the past.
Okay, Peter, happy with that?
Yes. Thank you, John. Thank you, Chair.
And I will move to David, which I've been reliably informed is a member of the board. I get confused who is, and I've really got to have a list in front of me, so apologies for that, David.
Thank you. No problem, Richard. Just so my points are, we're very hard together to make sure we try and get these rail connections right on the West Somerset Rail, and I think Simon Goff and I've met, and I think we're going to see some progress for next April. I'm grateful to him. We met in Fairham recently. But the thing is, then we have Nick on the call, so I'm very grateful as well for Great Western. So we need to make sure that we have a conversation, Richard, about the rail timetable on the West Somerset Railway, but particularly also the bus connection to the 28, which I travelled on yesterday with the new buses, to make sure that we are talking to First Great Western and to Aviva Cross Country Trains to make sure we make the connectivity to West Somerset. Those tickets. I think she's at another meeting, but she gives her apologies, Amy Poole from Natex this morning, Richard. But they have through tickets as well. So there's 2 points. I'm absolutely with Peter. We got one Somerset, 2 transport authorities, or possibly 3 with North Somerset. So that's absolutely right to change on the same date. But I think we've got to look at the seasonal services. So the Exmoor Coaster, the rail connections into West Somerset, which are part of the economy, both with the bus integration to Minehead and Watchet, and also the West Somerset Railway, but also working with Devon to Linton, Nymouth and Ilfracombe. And I think there's also some issues around Axminster. Rosa's not well, but she would pick up the connections to Chard and connections to at Lyme Regis and Bridport. So we need John to be working with Dorset, which I believe was quite a mess of the timetable recently. And in fact, I think that their Women's title comes in on the 26th after quite a big fight with Western Gateway and Dorset. We're first to sort it all out, which I'm great for the first group. So can we just look at that summer service issue, because we are very much a tourism county, and I welcome the progress with first group on the West Somerset Railway.
Well, I wait in anticipation of one of your short emails with the specifics, David, and we'll work through any specific issues. It sounds very operational to me, but yeah, I'll look forward to that email. That's the best way of putting that. Right. I think that was. I think we've got to say that this is definitely a positive move in the right direction. It's good that we've got all the operators on board. Appreciate that it might not be everything that the bus partnership has been looking for, but it's certainly it's certainly what I think is a really good start, and will make a huge improvement to everybody. So, you know, I'd like to thank John for working so hard on getting this through. So yeah, and we do look forward to the changes in April. It does, to me, seem to be a very positive move. So I will leave it there, and we'll move on to section 7, which is bus service improvement plan update. So back to Natasha to give us a bit of an update there.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to share my screen. I've got a bit of a presentation, and I'm going to do the first part, and Mark will do the second part. So bear with me a second. Right, hopefully you can see the presentation. So this is just to give a bit of an update on where we are in terms of our bus service improvement plan, so BSIP funding allocation for 25-26. So many of you will recall we had a 1-year settlement from government for this financial year, and that was 2.95 million in revenue and 3.34 million in capital. So once we had that announcement, we did some engagement with our key stakeholders and reviewed the BSIP 2024 and worked out where we were going to allocate that funding. So I'll come on to what we've done with that funding in just a moment, but I know lots of people are starting to ask, what about future funding? What happens beyond March 26? So at the moment, we're awaiting an update from the DfT to understand what the next announcement is in terms of future BSIP funding. Now, ideally, we would like have to see what comes out from the government on that. So we will start reviewing current schemes with operators to understand kind of how well things are working and start to plan ahead for the future and any future funding. So in terms of what we've done, the evening services, so we've got the 5 services that we're running in and out of Taunton, so the 1E, the 21, the 22, the 28 and the 30. So those services have continued to run. We've managed to extend the 21 evening service, so that now runs on to Burnham from Bridgwater rather than stopping at Bridgwater. And we've also got the evening services on the 376 from Street to Yeovil. Now, in terms of evening services, the only one we haven't been able to take forward as yet is the 51 Yeovil town service. So many of you will know, you've probably heard us say on numerous occasions that we're only able to support evening services where the daytime bus route is commercially viable. Obviously, the operator raised some concerns about the viability of the 51, and so we weren't able to go ahead with the evening services at that point, and we're working with the operator to review this. So it's still under review, and we will keep you updated on where we are with that. In terms of introducing Sunday services, so we've got Sunday services on the B1 in Bridgwater, the 51 in Yeovil, and the 376 from Street to Yeovil, so they're all up and running and continue to do so. And then we have put some additional services in place, and also we've provided some additional support to existing services that needed that bit of extra funding. So we've got the 27 from Wellington to Wiveliscombe that's been introduced. We part funded in conjunction with Devon County Council the Exmoor coaster over the summer. Now that's come to an end because the summer period is obviously ended now. We are funding an additional journey on the CR6, which is a Dorset council service. We're funding a morning journey on the Service 1 in Taunton, and we've also repurposed Service 11 in Yeovil to create Services 50 and 53, which is in response to the issues with the 51 in terms of trying to make that more commercially viable. So that's all in place and all continues to run. And then some of you will be aware that we used to receive BSIP Plus funding from government, and this year that BSIP Plus settlement was lumped into the BSIP overall settlement. So where we had services that were receiving funding from BSIP Plus, we've continued to support those services, and you will see on the slide the list of services that are receiving that support. And then digital demand responsive transport. So last year we launched the Slinky Digital in the Somerton area, which has been going really well. And on the back of that, we've now been able to expand the digital element to our existing Slinky services. So Sedgemoor has gone digital from mid-August, and the Taunton and Wellington service went digital the middle of last month. So really good news that we've been able to move forward with that. I think it's fair to say that those areas are slightly different to Somerton in that they're large operating areas, some very long distances travelled and some very rural routes. And as a result, we've had a few teething issues with our system in terms of scheduling and times and being able to put passengers together. But we have been working really, really hard and really closely with our software provider to address all of those issues and overcome them. So I think most of them are being sorted now and things are starting to settle. So we're starting to see those services running now. So hopefully we'll kind of keep monitoring those and see how they go. Also on the digital DRT side of things, just to mention that although it's capital, we are purchasing new vehicles for those two Slinky services as well. And we are just in the final stages of our procurement and governance. So hopefully we'll be placing orders for those vehicles very soon. And then moving on to marketing, publicity and monitoring. So we've got ongoing marketing activities, which we're doing. We're talking to our comms team. We're looking at what activity we might be able to do as we move into the autumn, coming up to October half term, and then obviously coming up to Christmas. So there's lots of things planned around marketing. Our bus passenger survey for 2025 ran from the 8th of September to the 27th of September. And I've got a brief update on the agenda next on that one. And then the only thing outstanding on marketing is really the online timetable booklet and map. So unfortunately, we have experienced an unforeseen delay in that area. Many of you will know we were going to work with one of our operators to fund putting our other operators' routes onto their existing timetable booklet and map. Unfortunately, that option is no longer available to us, and so we're now having to review other options and determine how we move forward from here. So it still remains something that we want to achieve, and we are working really hard and hope to get this in place in time for the next timetable change in April. So we're still working on that one. And then then we move on to capital schemes. And before I hand over to Mark, the only one I just want to update on is the electric minibus in Frome. So we are purchasing an electric minibus to operate on Service 30 in Frome. And again, we're in the procurement governance stages. So we're hoping again to place that order soon. And our operational team are working with property colleagues on the infrastructure. So that's it from me. Thank you. And I'll hand over to Mark.
Thanks, Natasha. I'm Mark Stanley Street. I'm the BSIP project manager for capital schemes for the council. I'll give you a bit of an update on where we are with the transport hub, slightly wider than the 25-26 funding, but where we are with the Taunton hub at the moment is we're just about to conclude the procurement process for the main contractor for the hub, and we've also got some tender evaluation underway for real-time information, and fairly shortly the bus shelters at the Taunton hub as well. We're currently going through developing an internal governance sign-off paper to proceed with the main contract. So that's where we are with the Taunton hub. So there's actually quite a lot going on. At Langport, I've just concluded detailed design on that, and I'm currently working with Langport Town Council to review the proposals in the detailed design, and also working internally on potential delivery options for the Langport Transport Hub. Bus shelter priority measures, the Greenways East physical works completed. Greenways West, it's agreed that a digital solution is going to be the solution there. Currently, there's a lot of work focused on the IT solutions and how all the relevant bits of kit talk to each other, which is slightly more technical than my sort of capability to explain that element of the work, but that work is ongoing at the moment, which basically links it all together. In terms of shelters, we've got quite a lot of activity going on at the moment in terms of bus shelters. In discussion with Minehead Town Council, Ruthy Shelters in Minehead, and we're also gathering a lot of data, and we're getting a lot of emails coming in on the condition of shelters across Somerset. So we've got a bit of a plan between John, Natasha, and myself, and Lisa, who's on the call, to look at how we can audit our shelters by route. So that's the piece of work we're currently looking at the moment. And that's probably about it, other than the 25-26 feasibility work is currently under discussion at the moment in Yeovil and Bridgewater. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Before I throw it open, I have a question, and that regards the evenings on the 51 route. I'd quite like to know a timeline for this. I know that I think there was from my understanding is that we have to decide that it is a commercially productive route. How long before we understand that will be the case? Just wonder, Natasha, whether you've been given a timeline, or if anybody from, is it First that are running that at the moment, could give us a timeline of when that could be a possibility. We're all keen to get another night service, evening service running, so I really would quite like an answer to that, please.
Chair, if you want me to give an update from what I know, so that is First that are operating that service now. They introduced some changes in the September timetable change date to try and address some of the issues that they were experiencing and to kind of respond to some of the requests from passengers. So they were allowing a bit of time for those changes to bed in and to see what impact that has on passengers. And we met with First last week, and we are due to meet with them in the next couple of weeks to look at some figures. So hopefully by the end of the month we might have a better idea.
Okay, I'm quite keen that it gets resolved one way or another. It can't keep dragging on, otherwise we need to look at other services if that's the case, because we you know, we want to spend this funding, we want to make our services as a whole better for the people of Somerset. So I'm very keen to just get on with it. So just putting that out there. So there's been a flurry of questions on the chat, and I missed a load from the previous section, but I'll go to David on this.
So I'm always on the side of the staff. I think Rebecca Mantic and George will know that. So where are we with regards to the staff accommodation? I know we're on the waiting room and the stops and the shelter designs, and I'm coming down to look at that in the next couple of weeks. But I was really keen to make sure if we're going to look after the staff, the RMT staff that work for First in Somerset, and get better service, then I do want to know where we are with the mess room, the staff room, the control office, and facilities at the Taunton Transport Hub. That is the most important thing to me, besides whether we then have the waiting room, which we will have, we might have a coffee cart, Richard, and no disabled toilets. But without good workforce, we don't have good bus service. So I'm anxious to know if Rebecca's signed a deal yet, or George, he's on the call now from First South, to get that staff accommodation open, because that's my big issue at the moment. I know the RMT have got a new person I'll introduce to you, Richard. I'm very, very keen to make progress. Thank you. Barry's retired, by the way.
Okay. Well, I'll go to Mark first, and then whether he can answer that question.
Yeah, Richard, we had a meeting with First, and Rebecca was at that meeting as well, where we discussed what the options were for accommodation at the hub in Taunton, and that was in conjunction with the meeting with Taunton Town Council.
Yeah. So that's progress, is what I'm hearing there, Mark, but nothing definitive.
Nothing's been agreed yet. No.
Okay. Let's hope that progresses speedily. Okay. I'll move on to David.
Yes, thank you, Richard. A couple of questions, please. So, the comment on evening services and those not being supported unless the daytime service is viable. I think that's probably fair enough. So I'm not really challenging that. I'm just wondering if I'm really just making sure I understand it, because that is an issue in my area. Could just a little bit more sort of explanation just be provided to so to make sure I'm fully in the picture is what I'm looking for, if that's okay. My other question is in connection with bus stops. It wasn't on the list, and it was a good report. Good to hear how things are progressing and so on. We had bus shelters, but not bus stops. And again, in the area here, bus stops need a bit of looking at, which I think John will be aware has been raised. The question is there any capacity to look at that? And in most cases, there's posts where flags can be put, but it's not clear who to arrange the flags to be put up. Who will put the flags up? And I'm thinking for both council services, and there are also some First stops which could do with looking at. They're mainly request stops, but people aren't clear where they can catch the bus from if there's no flag up, and it's something that is actually quite often raised and would be really helpful if it was understood what the way forward is on this.
I think that's two questions. I think one probably best answered by Natasha and the other by Mark. Would I be right in saying that? I'll go to Natasha first on the I forgot what the question was, but I think
it was around evening services.
Evening services, yeah.
Commercial
bit more of an
viability.
explanation on the thinking there.
Okay, so just to clarify, when we're looking at options for evening services, we're looking at those services that are currently running commercially, so they don't receive any funding from us to support them to continue to run. And so we would identify those routes as the ones that would be candidates for having evening service investment. So the idea behind that is that if those services are able to run sustainably during the day, then we've got more chance of ensuring that the evening services can also be sustainable from any funding that we put in initially to get those going.
So the point being that we don't want to introduce services that we're likely to take away in the future because we run out of funding.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it has a logic there, I think, to be honest. And Mark, do you want to answer the question on bus stops as opposed to shelters?
That's totally within scope. I think a while back, Councillor Mansell came out and we had a wander around and looked at some of the locations. I'd have to go back and check my notes, but we discussed it internally, and I think some were okay for bus flags, whereas I think some others we probably thought weren't. But quite happy to revisit that.
Thank
Okay,
you. I'll be in touch.
Okay.
I think that's probably best.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff being put in the chat, and I'll just ask that officers take away what's been put in the chat and maybe respond in due course. I think there's a lot there, so I won't go through everything.
I'll pick that up, Chair.
Thank you, appreciate it. Right, we'll move smartly on to our bus passenger survey for 2025, and it's back to you, Natasha, again.
Thank you. So again, this is just a short update to kind of let everyone know where we are with this. So the bus user survey for 2025 has now concluded. So we commissioned services of Queenswood again to conduct the on-bus surveys for us, and the survey period ran between the 8th of September and the 27th of September. So what they did was they surveyed Monday to Saturday over a 3-week period, which mirrors what we did last year. We have seen a very slight increase in survey responses from approximately 1,700 last year to just over 1,800 this year, so a slight improvement. And we are working at the moment on a more detailed report with a year-on-year comparison, which we hope to publish shortly. So we will share that when we've got that available, and we're just awaiting the specific route information, which we will share with operators. And obviously just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you very much to all the operators who supported us with this and accommodated the surveyors travelling on the buses and helped them with the work they were doing. So thank you for that. And then really just a couple of key points. So I know the kind of the report will follow, but a couple of things to note. So overall satisfaction levels still remain high at 82% of respondents were either satisfied or very satisfied with the services. That was a slight decrease from last year, where we had 87% of respondents in that category, but still high levels of satisfaction. However, the overall dissatisfaction levels have dropped. So that's those people who were dissatisfied or very dissatisfied. That's fallen from 2.3% to 1.7%. So good to see the reduction in responses in that category. And what we've seen is that the neutral category has actually increased from 10.2% to 16.3%. So that's where our kind of change in responses has come from, people who are neither satisfied or dissatisfied. They're kind of middle of the road. So that's those responses. And a couple of other points. The main reason that people identified that they were using the bus again this year was down to convenience of the services. And we've also noticed that the number of people travelling by bus on a daily basis has actually increased from 30% last year to over 40% this year. So good to see that the people are using the buses more frequently. So, but like I said, that's just a couple of snippets for now, and the more detailed breakdown will follow in the report in the next few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. It's great to hear, and we wait in bated breath. It's interesting that you've gone for an outsourcing on this survey. I presume that is just so that there's no I suppose it's an easier way to make sure that there's no internal bias put across, and just possibly makes it easier. I don't know. What was your thinking?
Well, it's the capacity. We don't have the capacity internally to be able to manage and facilitate a survey of that magnitude, and the suppliers we use are used to doing this, and they've got access to surveyors who have got experience with doing it and making sure that they're getting the most out of the surveying period, and encouraging people to fill in the survey. So
okay, I've got a question from Peter.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Natasha. And on the face of it, it sounds somewhat encouraging, but as has been said in the chat, I note by David Northey, it all depends on the questions and the basis for the survey. What happened in the 2022 BSIP was that we had a comparative survey which showed that Somerset had the worst performing bus services in the country. Somerset doesn't seem to take part in that survey any longer, but one is done, and Ipsos has published 2025 results, which I'm afraid still show Somerset to be the worst performing in the country. So I think we'll need to look very carefully at the nature of the survey that Somerset has done to get a full understanding as to how indicative it is both of Somerset's services and Somerset's relative services.
Yeah, that's a good point, Peter. And I think any comparison of surveys is something that we definitely need to think about. Okay. Don't see any other questions on our survey, so I think we'll move on to the most interesting bit, is our update from our operators. So I will invite any operators to provide any updates. Now, I've made the mistake of missing out operators in the past, so I'm going to ask all the operators to raise their hand now so that I don't miss any. Okay, I think George came in first.
Head of network for First, South and West of England. I think I'd just like to take the opportunity to update the board on some organisational changes to the commercial side of our business that have taken place over this time. So I've substantially replaced Terence James as the head of network for First South, so that includes and South West, so that includes Somerset. Previously, I've been head of network for West of England, so and I still retain that responsibility. So I'm still quite familiar with Somerset and operations within Somerset already. So that's good. So yeah, going forward, I suppose I'm the person who leads the team of people designing timetables and routes and working with the officers and councillors of the council. As part of this restructure, we've taken a common sense decision to give the planning responsibility of Somerset to the West of England planner, because buses don't stop at the county boundary with Somerset and Wecker. So Dan Ashworth, who most of you will be familiar with as our planner for Wales operated services in Somerset, will be looking after both Somerset and West of England. So we're hoping to get some better integration and coordination of services across the two companies going forward. And I suppose our current priority at the moment is, as Natasha says, just to review these supported enhanced services that we have for you, understanding where they currently stand and whether funding can be redeployed in other areas. So that's a piece of work that we're prioritising at the moment, and hoping to feed back to officers in the council in the coming weeks.
Okay, thank you, George. Okay. I'll go through all the operators first, and then we'll see if there's any direct questions for anybody. So next up, I've got South West Coaches. I don't know who on South West Coaches.
Hello, Richard. It's Peter.
Hello, Peter.
Sorry, my cameras are not very good. No updates from us at all, really. Our network's stable. Everything's okay. We've got no upcoming changes. Nothing on the cards that's going to make any difference to anyone on this meeting, I don't think. So relatively simple.
Okay, that's relatively simple. Then I'll go on to Richard Gibson.
Thank you. Yeah, Richard Gibson, I'm the stakeholder manager for Cross Country. Just wanted to flag in case anyone had missed all publicity. We will have a train strike this weekend on Saturday. Our MT members are on strike on Saturday, which will mean there are no cross-country services through Somerset on Saturday the 18th, and also announced a strike on Saturday the 1st of November. So just so you're aware. There's also engineering work this weekend, so I think Great Western local services are interrupted as well. There's a road replacement service between Bristol and Taunton. There's information on the website if anyone needs anything else.
Okay, that's not good news. And it'll be interesting how it affects our buses. But on more train news, we've got Nicholas from GWR.
Yeah, hi Richard. Yep, just from Great Western. No sort of major update from our side really. Just to sort of echo some of the work we're doing with Somerset, continuing to work with your team around Bridgewater and exploring opportunities for bus rail integration at Bridgewater. I am going through a process where we upload the Route 28 bus timetable into our rail system. So currently working that through, so that'll be displayed shortly online. And continuing to explore opportunities across our network for closer working, particular around Castle-Kerry again, and just reviewing what we can do there and speaking to John and Mark on that topic. But otherwise, yep, that's the update from ourselves, and thank you for having us along, Richard.
Oh, you're very welcome to join our meeting here. It's actually quite important that we do look at things as a whole, and linking up rail and bus services is a must for us here. So I'll be very pleased for you to continue to join us on these meetings. Okay, do we have any other operators in the room? Because like I say, I rather tend to upset operators when I forget about them. So I've got Chris.
Yeah, hi. I'm here from Stagecoach Southwest, but much like Southwest coaches earlier, I think really to report things pretty stable for us in the area. So yeah, nothing to report. It's business as usual.
Okay, that's good to hear. And I think that is everyone. I just wondered whether anybody could, any of the operators could comment on the impact of the £3 fare as opposed to the £2 fare. George is jumping in. Well done, George.
Yeah, we'll speak for our services that travelling in and out of Bristol from Wales and further afield. We haven't actually seen much loss in volume on those services this September, so that's quite promising. I think the real cliff edge is not necessarily moving from £2 to £3, but what does the fare regime look like if for whatever reason that scheme comes to an end? I think we're finding there's quite good elasticity at the moment in terms of fares moving from a £2 cap to a £3 cap, at least on our services in the west of England. I haven't had the time to really analyse the impact on services within sort of Taunton and other areas, but I think they're looking relatively stable as well. So all things said, it's looking okay for us. I think in terms of volumes anyway.
That's good, and I presume that's it's probably the case across the board of our operators. I'm not seeing anybody saying anything different, so I think that's relatively positive, if nervously positive, I think would be the best way of describing that.
Yeah, I think people still perceive it as quite good value, because we do tend to operate longer distance services in the county. You can still get a hell of a long way for quite a small amount of money, really. So I think it's probably why we're seeing what you told as they are.
Yeah, that would make sense. So thanks for that, George. I do have David who wants to jump in and ask a question, so I'll let David jump in.
Yeah, so it's 2 points. First of all, I hope we can support Mayor having good wins with Peninsula to try and get more rolling stock across country. She made a plea yesterday. She's going to start writing to the other mayors and to the Secretary of State to try and get cross country is a very, very important train set across our region. Very strapped for rolling stock. There is spare rolling stock available, Richard, and we need to look with. We've had this conversation with Peninsula, see if we can get some of that more rolling stock service. I am worried about the strike. I don't know whether Stagecoach and First Great Western are putting on additional coaches. I mean, I hope Stagecoach is looking at this with the Falcon in particular. There is not a major train service from Plymouth to Taunton to Bristol. I mean, you can change extra on Great Western, but can we look at contingency planning with Stagecoach and with Flixbus, and obviously with National Express to make sure we can move those passengers? Disappointingly, I'm taking this action. And my only other point on First Group, George, can we take back on a regional level a little audit of the cleaning and look at the cleaning again? I'm picking up cleaning issues. Bath depots come up. I've sent some stuff internally. If we could go back and have a look at this cleaning contract, Richard, there is an issue of cleaning of some of the buses. We've got beautiful buses at £400,000 a time across Somerset and the west of England, and we need to keep them clean and shipshape. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're all keen on having our buses in the best nick possible. Absolutely, it is important that, and it's always the case that if the bus looks clean and tidy, people tend to treat it with the respect that they deserve. As soon as they start to get a bit grimy, people are less keen to. Sorry, somebody's jumped in there. But Paul, could you mute your? Thank you. Okay. Right. Unless there's anything else on our updates, I think that was very useful, and thank you to the operators here. We work as a partnership, and it's very important that we get the best results possible. So next, I will move on to Peter to give us the bus user and stakeholder group update. Paul, can you mute your? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And just to comment, it's really good to see so many of the bus operators here at this meeting. I think possibly more than we've had in a very long while. So that's really good news. More good news that yesterday was a very significant day for buses in Somerset, most particularly for passengers on the 28 route. It saw the introduction of the kites, initially to link Minehead and Taunton. They are the result of a very significant investment by First Bus in electric buses, yes, supported by some Zebra funding, which was obtained with the help of Somerset Council. And over the past year, through the introduction of the EV fleet, which is based in Taunton and Minehead, there's been a major upgrade in the buses in the area of Somerset, which I hope will be appreciated by bus users. I'm sure will be noticed by bus users because these buses are a very significant improvement. What we also must hope is that these new EV buses will deliver greatly improved reliability, most specifically in the Taunton and Minehead area, because reliability is the single biggest issue for bus users across Somerset. And I have to say, especially for users of First South over the last 2 or 3 years. We in the Somerset Bus Partnership do recognise the huge efforts made by First South to improve their service delivery. And I'm sure we're going to see it deliver very clearly over the next year. We also appreciate the efforts of all the bus operators to improve reliability and recognise too often they have to contend with roadworks, with the resultant diversions and road closures that blight bus services, perhaps inevitably, but they blight bus services for bus users right across our council area. And whilst the improvements in Taunton, including the new hub set to open next year, as Mark has promised, are very welcome, they do highlight the issue of Yeovil bus passengers, long suffering as a result of the delayed and protracted Yeovil Refresh project. A big question mark still is over the future of the Yeovil bus station. As Mark has said, there is work being done on that, and we all await with a lot of interest the result of the BSIP funded project plan for Yeovil bus station, which is still only a plan. It then has to be put into effect. Then there's Bridgewater. In the Somerset Economic Prosperity Strategy 2025 to 2045, which has recently been published, this stresses the paramount economic importance of Bridgewater within that strategy, not just for Somerset, but for much of west of England, both because of the gravitas enterprise zone, plus the ongoing investment being made in Hinkley Point. It's vital that a bus network for Bridgewater is put in place that reflects the opportunities and the demands of this economic development zone, and that it is planned in good time with the bus operators, thinking particularly of George Burton on this call. It's planned in good time with the bus operators to ensure that Bridgewater doesn't suffer traffic gridlock because of its growth. Public transport, especially buses, has to be a primary means of serving this economic zone. Preparing such a network must be one of the biggest challenges facing Somerset. And we're really pleased in the Somerset Bus Partnership to see the bus timetable change dates have now been agreed through to 2030. It was something that we had been encouraging, and that they're going to coincide with those of WECA. We very much welcome that work by the team. Somerset Bus Partnership has also been a prime mover on trying to get some action on multi-operator tickets, thinking particularly, as has been touched on already today, that paper multi-operator tickets would be a way of fast-tracking for those of us in Somerset the ability to have multi-operator tickets for bus users within at least the Somerset Council area. And yes, we recognise, and certainly where I live in Somerset, recognise the huge importance of cross-border, but we have to try and find a way of getting something in place as soon as possible for bus users. And if necessary, we would bring a proposal forward to the next bus advisory board if there's not been any progress on this, but we note that Natasha and team are working on this. We hope that the bus operators would help get this in place, as they have done often of their own volition in other parts. We do all await the next BSIP award. We believe it's going to be 3 years. We were led to believe that we might see what that award is in October. There's still time for Rachel Reeves to give it the green light. It's going to be hugely important if we could get a larger award. It opens up opportunities in Somerset, which we would all be very keen to grab and seize and develop and improve our bus services. So many thanks to the bus operators, many thanks to Somerset Council for everything that's been done. We just need to see an even better bus service in Somerset, and no longer to be ranking as the one that gives least satisfaction in the country. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Peter. I liked your use of the word gravitas, but it is gravity. But I appreciate it as a lot of gravitas to the county. And I'd just like to pick up the point on the roadworks. And it is highly frustrating when we have roadworks, but I just would like to point out that the quality of our roads has improved considerably in the last year, because in part due to the roadworks that have caused so many potential issues, and we do try to work with the bus operators to make sure that they are aware when we do put these roadworks in. Not always as simple as we would like it to be, and sometimes doesn't quite come off as well as we would like, but I think on the whole we've got a good relationship between our street works teams, and actually it's vital that bus travel is smooth and comfortable for the bus users. It really makes a difference. So whilst it is very difficult that we have had considerable roadworks, I think it's important that we do invest in the roads as well as in our bus infrastructure. So that's my response to that. I'm quite keen that that the bus operators ask you questions, Peter. So is there any of our operators, or in fact anybody who would like to ask Peter any questions on his report? And it was a very positive report, I think. So I'm very, very pleased about that. Anybody would like to jump in? No. It was. I always think it should be a two-way two-way event, really, as we get a lot of we give a lot of searching questions to our operators. I just thought it might be an opportunity for our operators to fire back at us. But obviously for another day. Okay, and if there's no other questions for Peter, I will move on to any other business. So has anybody got any other business, is the question. Anything from Peter or Natasha? No. Wow, this is very civilized meeting today. It's doesn't seem to be many things. So okay, we'll leave. Oh, just as we jump in, we got Rebecca.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I've just actually put it into the chat. I'm really keen because we do take pride in clean vehicles. So I just want to jump on that question, explore it more, because I'm I will quite happily put our engineering colleagues under great pressure. So if you do see any out and about, ideally pictures would help, but please let me know any non-clean buses. Thank you, Richard.
No, it's very important. And actually, we need to call out passengers if they are making a mess as well. But I think we're all aware that generally our passengers are very good and do respect the fact that they're going to have to use the bus later on, and they themselves want a clean bus. So, yes, thanks, Rebecca, for that. It's very useful. And we've got David who's going to jump in on this. So go on, David.
Just a very quick one. Excellent launch of the EV buses on the Minehead route yesterday. Out and about and travelled on many of them, so there was some really good sort of feedback from customers using the buses. Although I must say a lot of them probably didn't even realise it was a new bus, and they were sat there and they were just happy that the bus turned up. But there was definitely a lot of chatter amongst people, and I listened to them as they got on and off. Just one thing that I picked up on, and there's something that we must pick up, is that the audible announcements unfortunately miss off all the village names. So you just get the end names of places. So like we're now approaching Carhampton Garage, it would just say the garage, and there are 4 garages on the 62 stops between Taunton and Minehead. So just a little thing that we could probably get on quite quickly, and if we could get that changed. But the layout, the seating, the level access, I pictured people boarding at Taunton Station with Butlins, and the additional luggage space. Yeah, people just have to get used to it, but there was certainly a much more space in the bus than we've experienced in the past. So well done, and we'll just keep an eye on that.
Yeah, that's useful information. I'm sure Rebecca will take that on board about the name, the way it's announced. I would like to complain to First though that every time they release new electric buses, I tend to be in the other part of the county for other reasons. So I'm just going to put it out there that you need to choose days that I'm not in Frome or elsewhere when you bring these new buses in. Because I would have loved to have travelled with yourself, and I believe Mike Rigby, Councillor Mike Rigby, also jumped onto the onto one of the buses, and I suggested that I should have a photograph lying in the new luggage rack. That's but apparently that's not acceptable. But there we go. Okay, well, I think that includes any other business. So just leaves me to say the date of the next meeting, which is scheduled to be held on Tuesday, the 27th of January, 2026 at 10 a.m. And this ties in with the timetable for the April change dates. So okay, I do believe, unless I've missed something, that is the end of the meeting, and we've really fired through this meeting this time round, which is great. It gives us all a little bit of time back in our heavy diaries, I suspect. So thank you, everybody. I really appreciate the work that we've all done over the past 6 months or so, and I think we've made some really good progress. So it's a big thank you to everybody here, and let's continue to get things right.
Thanks, everyone.